Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in to Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. I'm Loretta Howard, your lead co-host for today, and I'm delighted to be with my constant companions on the show, Dr. Undraye Howard and Dr. Sheryl White. And today we're going to be continuing our topic of finding joy and wellness for leaders. Joining us is a very special guest who's going to help with that conversation, Miss Dacia Moore, who is a dynamic leader, a speaker, an author, as well as a mental health advocate. She is also the founder of Second Wind Counseling and Consulting. She is located in Houston, Texas, so we are excited about having her here with us today. Last week on our show, we did talk about what the topic would be, and our wonderful listening audience has provided us with a couple of questions. We'll start off with one, and I'm going to ask Dr. Sheryl to answer first, then Dr. Dre and Dacia, and I'll answer it as well. But the question we have is, how can leaders recognize early signs of burnout in themselves and their teams? So,
That is indeed a another good question from our audience. Thank you so much for sending that in. I think when I, for myself, when I feel like I'm getting to that space, it's probably when I am feeling probably uh, needing to disengage. And I think when I see it in others, they probably seem less interested and probably less engaged at those times as well. I think for myself also, I would uh, probably less productive during those times. And I think when I've had staff that were going through some type of needing to be more re-energized and getting some rest and some downtime, I I would imagine that is another symptom that I can have observed is just lack of productivity. I think sometimes we get to the point where we go, 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 and we just got
mhm,
to stop. And
yes.
um, and if we don't, then we hit that wall, and it's just really hard to be productive during those times. So I'd say the disengagement um, and uh, and reduced productivity is what I notice in myself and others. And I think sometimes when we have people who burn out, we might tend to get more call-ins with regards
Mhm,
to absenteeism.
yes.
So those may be some things that we might look for in staff. Do they seem lower in energy? Do they seem a little bit lacking in their and caring in their
Hmm.
interest? And it has the productivity gone from being, what it normally is to maybe lacking would be, I guess, some signs that I might look for in myself and in others.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Dre.
Yeah, again, our audience comes up with some of the best questions. So again, I appreciate the question. I think for me, and for other leaders, I have noticed, the physical signs, right? Chronic fatigue that won't go away, sleeping disruptions, kind of emotional indicators, more irritable, being very cynical, maybe even more cynical than usual, feeling overwhelmed. And again, in my team, certainly thinking about, again, avoiding difficult conversations, perhaps as part of that process, declining output, and increased even mistakes and errors just in normal job duties is also observed. And so recognizing, I think, for myself as a leader as well as my team is important as we think about that burnout piece. And I think the other question we have to ask ourselves is we have to check our leadership gut, G-U-T, leadership gut, because the burnout it may not be just this personal burnout. It may be job burnout too. This is what I'm doing now, the role I'm playing. I'm done. I'm done. I'm gone. And so, trying to recognize that and fare that out too, I think is important for leaders to kind of think about, is this burnout something that's temporary for me, or is this really more than just the burnout? So I would just offer those pieces of advice.
Great, thank you. And Dacia, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it is knowing your people and knowing yourself. Certainly, some everything that has been said it would be accurate. The term burnout comes from the idea of having a fire, and if you don't put logs on the fire, then it eventually will burn out, and it is difficult to reignite, right? And so burnout is a slow process. It doesn't happen over a series of weeks or days. It happens over months. It happens over long periods of time. So, being aware and self-aware so that you are managing your expectations, not to say you shouldn't demand and expect excellence, but knowing your staff and knowing their capacity. I think it was one of the authors of Good to Great who said, know that you have, or try to get the right people on the bus in the right seats. So if people are in the right seats, then it's a matter of feeding their intention that, yes, they're doing a great job. But if they're not in the right seat, that can certainly also lead to burnout because they're trying to do something that is not in their normal talent, gifts, skills area. And you might be needing to make some changes and some shifts, which, that's fine. It happens all the time. But but observing your staff, checking in with them, in your staff meetings, checking in, having a space to say, how's everybody doing? In the staff meetings once a month, have some mental health moment where you talk about deep breathing, just some very basics. You don't have to get all squishy and you don't have to be intrusive, but you can include that as a way to help people manage their stress, manage their anxiety, manage the workload so that they can be sustainable. So giving ourselves permission as leaders to do that and then modeling it as leading the staff to do that and then checking in with staff and then calling them out on it. There was a time when I went through a very difficult time on my job and my boss came to me and said, "Hey, Dacia, what is going on?" Because he could see the signs. I was calling in, I was coming in late, I was making mistakes. And he just, said, "I care about you. I want to know what's going on." So that is okay to do. And those are just some of my thoughts.
Okay. Great thoughts, everyone. I appreciate them all. And I agree with everything I heard. One of the things I go back to what Dr. Sheryl has said about the fatigue and the lack of productivity. That is very evident. People who are usually like excited about work. Maybe they're not coming in or they're calling in or they need to leave early. Just so many things are happening. And I've even noticed irritability. And I'll say that as far as myself sometimes too, when I'm feeling overly stressed and wearing multiple hats and getting frustrated very easily. So just having someone to come and say, "Hey, what's going on?" That's great. And it feels good that they really do care about you when you do it. But absolutely seeing that. And I know with many nonprofit and people who are in public positions, they're wearing so many hats right now. It's just, and it's a slow burn. I like the way you describe that. It's slow, but you see it happening. So we definitely need to check in with each other. So thank you so much for answering that question. Now, Miss Dacia, I am going to ask you to please share a little bit about yourself and your leadership journey so our audience can learn a little bit more about you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Loretta, and I'm so pleased to be here on this program with such esteemed panel. My name is Dacia Moore, Dacia. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in Detroit, Michigan. I had most of my professional career in Kansas City, Missouri, where I had a number of leadership positions in corporate America, then moved over to education, and then moved over to the nonprofit space as I got my master's degree in counseling and then my advanced certification from the Albert Ellis Institute. And now I'm in Houston, Texas, traveling around the country, but based here in Houston due to family. Most of my family is here. But I did spend 8 years as an executive director of a nonprofit and semi-retired from that a couple of years ago. And now I do recruiting for Moran and Company, which is a search firm that does recruiting for nonprofit executive directors and development directors. And then I also am a licensed counselor and I do leadership coaching for those in leadership. So my mom was Jamaican. I have a lot of hats. I have a lot of jobs. and but I have learned the wisdom of balance. I have learned the
Okay.
wisdom of balance and of healthy boundaries.
Mhm.
And that is a journey that I would, and that is information and a proclamation and admonition that I want to give to every leader who's listening, because the work of nonprofits is super important. Yes, we need nonprofits now more than ever because of the shift in our federal government, and we need to find other funding sources. And I know that is a pressure point for everybody listening. But the work of nonprofits is very much like your laundry. And what I mean by that, and I learned this when I was a new housewife. And one day I had all the laundry done, all the dishes done, all the things done. I was so proud of myself. And guess what happened 1 hour later? There was some more laundry in the, in the laundry basket. There were dishes in the sink. And I didn't know it then. I have learned it now. You will never get it all done. And part of burnout is the expectation that you will, right? And the disappointment when you can't. So then the leader begins to feel incompetent, that it's unsustainable. They have a perception that they're just not doing enough. There's a lack of support, or a perceived lack of support. And all of those negative, pessimistic thoughts begin to erode the passion that the person has. So I love that we are talking about this. It is such an important topic. And I'm just honored to be part of the conversation.
Thank you so much. I see we are about to get ready to go to break, but when we return from break, Dr. Sheryl is going to come in and ask some questions of you as well, Dacia, talk on the topic of personal mental health and well-being for leaders. So right now we are going to get ready to take a short break and we will come back. Again, you are with the People's Doctors, Leadership Matters, Informing Leaders and Inspiring Solutions. Okay, we are back with more of Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. Again, I am your lead co-host, Dr. Loretta Howard, and with me are Dr. Sheryl White and Dr. Undraye Howard. And our outstanding guest today is Miss Dacia Moore, a well-known speaker, author, as well as mental health advocate. And with that, I am going to turn the questioning over to Dr. Sheryl.
Thank you, Dr. Loretta. Dacia, thank you again for being with us today. Wanting to just ask you, why is it important for leaders to prioritize their own mental health and well-being?
Well, I have a quote here, Dr. Cheryl, that I want to share with you. It comes from the
Okay.
Lyra report. They do a report on mental health and wellness in the workplace, and it says mental health and mental well-being is the single biggest catalyst to individual, team, and organizational success. So our mental health is a catalyst that will take us to the success that we want as an individual. It will take us to have a successful team as well as a successful organization. So mental health, just like your physical health, if you have a broken arm or you did something to your ankle and had to wear a boot, that affects how you feel, that affects how you interact, that affects how you flow through life. And when you are healthy, you feel better, right? I am an advocate of holistic medicine because I believe that our bodies were created to heal itself, but that also means mind, body, and spirit. It's not just your physical, but it's also your mental. Leaders, I believe, have an extra responsibility to take care of their mental health because they have followers. They have people who are watching them, whether it be their staff or their stakeholders or board members or, others, peers. But they have people who are looking at them, and we want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So mental health, it's not a squishy subject. It is about mindset. It is about having an optimistic mindset where you take care of yourself so that you can do your optimal performance or have optimal performance at work, but you are not just your work, right? You
Yeah.
have other aspects of self that are important to feed as well. And it's important to have that balance. And so I think for all of those reasons, plus many more, it's important for leaders to take care of their mental health so they can be good leaders and have healthy leadership styles.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I could not agree more.
Absolutely. I love the power of self, taking care of self. Excellent. To see what are the most common obstacles leaders face when trying to find joy and maintain wellness from your perspective?
I think it's the pressure of performance. Fundraising is an issue for most nonprofits. Human resources, finding the right people, getting them on the bus, training them, finding the donors, writing the grants, all the things. And there's a lot of pressure to perform, and then there's a lot of expectations of your staff to perform, which is certainly reasonable. But I do think that some unhealthy tendencies like perfectionism can sabotage the well-being of a team because the expectations are unrealistic. Excellence is what we want to shoot for, not perfectionism, because we will never be perfect. But that distinction and that our society tells us to be perfect, to be excellent, and there's a difference between those two words. So those are just some thoughts.
Yeah. So it's okay to strive for perfectionism though as a leader? I mean,
I think we want to strive for excellence. So when I think of excellence, excellence is doing your absolute best, bringing your A game, and doing the absolute best that you can do within your gifts, skills, and talents. Perfectionism is having an really an unachievable standard of there's a lot of shoulding in perfectionism. I should be doing this. You should be doing that. It's a lot of shoulding, and there's more rigidity in your thinking when you have a perfectionistic tendency, which then can turn into judgmentalism. It can turn into being very critical, self-critical, and critical of others, which is not healthy for the team. When we talk about trying to get people to be excellent, feedback is good. Criticism can deflate people. Okay, so if we're talking about building strong teams, we want to build people up, and that may include some corrective feedback. But when you're operating in perfectionism, nobody hits it, right? Because your standard is so high and you don't even hit it, which then can lead to burnout.
I love that, and love that distinction. And like that's one that I kind of preach all the time as well with regards to excellence versus perfectionism. I do think, and so agree, excellence, doing the best you can with what you have at any given time. And that may be your energy, your resources, your talent, and so on and so forth. And as the good book says, and now I show you the most excellent way, compassion, right? Love in action. So love it, love it, love it. Nowadays we have so many people who are working remote and in hybrid settings. How can leaders set healthy boundaries between work and their personal life, especially in remote or hybrid work settings?
That's a great question. And I think that it is really important to have distinct workplaces. So when you're working at home, I would advise against working in your bedroom, or at least having a place in your bedroom where it is an office. It is optimal to work outside of your bedroom, where you have an office set up, maybe in another area. Maybe you have another bedroom you could do. But because it's this psychologically, when you get up and go to your desk that is in the second bedroom, it feels like you're going to work. I think it's important to have a cutoff time, and not every leader is very good at this, but to say that, okay, at 5 o'clock, I'm going to stop and, or at least slow down. And maybe at 7 o'clock, I'll stop with, the reading or sending emails. I would advise against sending out emails randomly, 10 p.m., 11 p.m., 1 a.m. You may get ideas at that time, but let's get a little notebook and write those ideas down, or let's schedule the send for later. I have had more than one staff person complain about an ED sending emails at 10 p.m. because the expectation is I should answer this. And so modeling that healthy behavior is really important as well. But there are great articles on how to manage that hybrid. I think you have to be a little bit more organized, right? To make sure that your files and everything are together. So those are some thoughts.
Thank you.
They see it, but I've got to be an impressive leader. So I will schedule a text to go out at 2 a.m. in the morning, because I want folks to know I don't stop working. I mean, as we're talking about wellness, I want folks to know that I am a superstar. I expect you to respond at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, what would you say about me in sending out those texts and emails at 2 o'clock? Because I want to impress. I want folks to know, oh, he's a wonderful.
We say you need help.
Yes. Seriously.
We'd say schedule that counseling session and go see Ian.
So that's what we call people-pleasing behavior. That falls in the people-pleasing behavior line, where you want people to see that you're a superstar. You know what? Brene Brown had this quote. I love it. She says, be who you are. Okay? When you accept yourself fully with all your fallibilities, your brilliance will show. You don't have to tell people. You don't have to do 2 a.m. Emails or texts. Your brilliance will show, because the proof is in the pudding. Okay. So you can be excellent, but not be a crazy leader like what you're talking about. So I agree with Dr. Sheryl. That requires some therapeutic intervention if you're
Yeah.
sending 2 a.m.
Yeah,
email.
I do need help. I definitely do need help. So,
Well, I won't say sending it is crazy, but doing it to be seen.
Yes,
I
yes, 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 yes.
yes, I have to often remind myself to use the scheduling um, indicator, because I will be that person who
yeah.
done other things, and now I'm just getting some things off my that's top of mind, and my intent is to schedule it to go out, and then I'm so embarrassed when it goes out and I didn't schedule it to go
But you
out.
know what, Dr. Cheryl, the other thing that you can do
Mhm,
is to share that with your team. Hey, listen, I'm a night
mhm,
owl. I get up and I have ideas. If
mhm,
I email you at or text you at 2 a.m., do not respond. I'm
mhm,
just trying to get it out of my head and to you.
mhm,
And if I
mhm,
forget to schedule it, because I will try to schedule it, if I forget to schedule it, please
mhm,
forgive me. So you can
mhm,
you can give your team a heads up so they won't have the expectation that they're supposed to respond.
mhm. No, I like that. Mhm,
I love the conversation that we're having. And I have a colleague who is that 2 a.m. in the morning person. She sends out text messages. And I told her once I came on board as their volunteer, it's like, hey, I'm sleeping. I'm not going to respond to that. And she was like, oh, no, you don't have to. I said, no, I know I don't have to. I'm not going to. I'll see it when I get up the next morning because I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to get some rest. Now, I will leave Dr. Undraye up in the middle of the night doing
Thank
stuff,
you.
but I'm going to get some sleep because I know I can't function without a certain amount of sleep. That causes that irritability and all kinds of things, or I don't want to be collaborative. It's like, just leave me alone today and let me do my work. So, I'm definitely not that person. I will shut the phone off. My family knows we have a landline. If it's an emergency, they will call that landline. But that text, all that has to be shut down. I'm not trying to be the superstar. I just do the best I can for the hours that I have, and that's it. But that was I so enjoyed that, and it really leads into our second audience question, which was, how do you create that work-life balance when both of them are so demanding? So, something to think about, and I'm going to ask Dr. Dre if you would answer that for us, Mr. Superstar.
Mhm.
How would
Wow.
you answer that? And then Dr. Cheryl
Well, that's a
and
pretty,
Dacia.
pretty deep question. I know we're coming up on a break pretty soon, but I certainly want to I guess I'll just chime in and just simply say that, thinking about, how I really have learned this word and the newness of this word, and that's just say no. Remember that just say no kind of slogan? Just say no sometimes. And I've learned how to say that word and understand what that means and making sure other folks know what that means as well. So certainly, just saying no is important for me as I think about the work-life balance. And the other piece I'll just add is, of course, understand my non-negotiable boundaries, right? That, I want to protect my weekends or my late evenings or my
Mhm.
family time with my wife or whatever it might be. I've got boundaries. There are a few of them, but I need to be firm on them. So certainly making sure that I establish these non-negotiable boundaries and understanding the power of no, I think has been really important for me to think about. So.
All right, Dr. Cheryl.
Well, for myself, it's my calendar. I mean, that really is what helps me. And having conversations with the people who support my managing my calendar. I like to have 30 minutes in between, and so that I have an opportunity to take notes, decompress, get some water, go to the restroom, or if something comes up, be able to handle it. And also me trying to jump ahead. And I will put on the calendar no more appointments for this week, and
Mhm.
I'll just go through each day. So me just kind of
Mhm.
jumping ahead and making sure that I'm looking up and out at the calendar so that if it feels like it's getting to be too much, given what I have to do I like to think of work-life integration. When
Okay.
it's got too much to integrate, then I will just simply say no more on the calendar. And, you know, uh, it- trying to figure out what's sustainable with regards to expectations. Resetting when needed, is another thing that for me works.
All right, great. Well, we are going to take a short break, and when we return, our guests will answer that question for us. And we want to make sure you please stay tuned, and we'll be right back with more on leadership matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. We are back with more on Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors. For those of you who are just joining us, I'm Dr. Loretta Howard, the lead co-host for today. Along with me are Dr. Sheryl White and Dr. Undraye Howard, our other co-hosts, and our very special guest, Dacia Moore, who is an author, a mental health advocate, and so much more. So when we left previously, our question was from the audience. How do you create work-life balance when both are demanding? So, Ms. Dacia, I'm going to ask you if you'll answer that question for us.
Absolutely. And it is about having a mindset where you do the most important things. One of my mentors told me early on when I was a new executive director, there are some things that you will want to do. There are a lot of things that you have to do that are in your basket to do, but there are only a few things that only you can do. And as a leader, you have to focus on only the things that only you can do. So if we pull out that, okay, what are the things that only I can do? And then look at the different domains in our life. Work. What are the things that only I can do? Home, relationships, mental health, physical health, right? Because I think it's important to be well-rounded. So then that gets me to having intention and basically having a plan that looks at all of those domains of your life or several of the important domains of your life so that you can plan out, whether it's weekly, monthly, or quarterly, where you're going to spend your time. Because time is finite. You don't have an infinite amount of time. And there are more things in your life than work that need your attention. If you have small children, if you have teenagers, if you have a spouse. So I am an advocate for not sacrificing your personal relationships for your job, which means that you have to have a plan. Now you have a strategic plan that you spend a lot of time on every year. You're probably starting to work on it now for 2026. We spend more time on our job strategic plans than on our personal strategic plans. And who is going to be with you at the end of your life? I know I'm getting philosophical here, but I am in the fourth quarter of my life. And I have more life behind me than in front of me. So there will come a day when I will step into eternity. What do I want my life to look like? And so if you can't do everything, which you can't, then you have to figure out what are the things that I can do that are important to feed my spirit, my soul, my relationships, my work, so that I can be proud of myself before I step into eternity. Now I know that is philosophical, but it is true. And I don't think leaders take the time, and I wrote this down, doctors. Let's stop working on automatic and let's be intentional, right? I love what Dr. Sheryl said. She uses her device to manage herself. So do I. But we have to make some decisions about what do we value in terms of our time, and then we have to put action to what we say we value. Don't tell me you love me and value me, but you never spend time with me. That's not going to work, right? So let's be well-rounded, because yes, you have a lot to do, but just like laundry, you will always have a lot to do. So let's try to cherry pick the things that are the most important and try to get those done in the different domains of your life so that you can be more balanced, which will help be protective against burnout, which will help make you a better leader.
Oh, thank you so much, everyone. I agree, of course, with everything that I've heard. But in addition to that, for me, one of the things I have learned is to delegate as long as a person has the qualifications to do it. I have a young person who I am teaching him how to do all the reports that I do. If something comes up, so that they're not just always contacting me, and just prioritizing. Many of the things for me with the nonprofit that I'm at, and with the funding and things you talk about, we have due dates where you have to get reports in, or the funding we're asking for. But the young person who is working with me, he loves learning all of it. So I've delegated some things to him, because since it started Monday, and for 2 weeks I am on what I call my staycation. It's like, if it's a major emergency, of course they can reach me. But it's like, hey, I'm gone. I need a break. I need a mental break from y'all and everything else. So I am, and I haven't really left the house, but that's what I wanted to do. Some things at home that I need to take care of. So I absolutely agree with everything I've heard. Okay.
You know what,
With
Dr. Loretta, I want to underscore too that
yeah.
for the young, I won't just say mothers, but parents. I remember the juggle myself when this question talking about work-life balance, and I remember being a parent that living away from my family. I was the only one. My husband at the time was in the military, and so the laundry thing, as you keep mentioning it, I think sometimes we have to make the decision. At that point, I didn't have a lot of money, but I had even less time, and I still, with my pennies, putting them together, used the fluff and fold service. Even thinking about what can we delegate. I've gone back now to doing laundry, but as a young mom with less time, I mean, sometimes there are just services that we do need to make use of in order to create more capacity. Because certainly when using that fluff and fold services, I could have used that time to do laundry at that time, but if I was doing that, then I would have less time for my children or other things. So it is I love that, Dacia, being intentional about our time and what matters to us. And sometimes we don't have a lot of money, but sometimes we have even less time. And how do we make that precious gift of time really count? When I say a fluff and fold service, for those who don't know that, that's sending your stuff to the laundry and letting somebody else wash those clothes and fold them up for you. You know, a step down from the cleaners, but a service nonetheless that can be helpful.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
Okay.
practical.
I love it. I love it. I'm gonna turn it over to you, Dr. Dre.
All right. I mean, I'm still taking notes, so I'm so
I know, right?
wow. Okay. So, to see in terms of leaders and their own experiences with mental health, how can leaders use their own experiences? You've alluded to this a little bit with mental health to positively influence their teams and broader communities.
Well, okay, so I think lead by example. So leaving the office at 6 or whatever the posted office times are, leave on time or at least try to maybe 2 days a week. So you're showing by example that okay, it's done. I've done what I can do, and I think also it's important to have some time during your staff meetings just to do check-ins, monthly check-ins with your staff. How's everybody doing? What are the concerns? What's going on out there? Because, people want you as the ED or CEO to be happy with them. They want you to be proud of them, and they're not going to necessarily come and tell you some of the things that you need to know about another person. So those are just some thoughts. I think modeling it and talking about it. Not to say that you have to proclaim it from the rooftops, but talking periodically about mental health. It's important, guys and ladies, for you all to take care of your mental health. We may not be able to offer health benefits, but there are good counselors out there who have sliding scales. I can give you some PTO time to see a therapist if that's what you need to do. You don't have to tell me, and nobody has to know. But I can make 1 hour a week available if you need to, get some mental health care. So doing things like that, making those statements, and even privately, when you see a key worker kind of going downhill, to suggest that. Not to say that you don't believe in them, but we all need help. We all need help at certain times in our life. And I think, Dr. Dre, that is what we want to communicate. This work can be draining, can be life-sucking, or it can be life-giving. And in order for it to be life-giving and for us to sustain, we have to take care of ourselves.
Just sneaking in one more question before break. Just the thought of how can organizations better support the mental health and well-being of people in leadership roles? And you may have touched on that. Anything you would emphasize or add to that?
I would say that any leading organizations, foundations, or maybe United Ways in your various cities have sessions for executive directors about mental health issues, about managing stress, about managing burnout, about managing overwhelm, to talk about it so that you can learn the strategies and take them back to your staff, teach your staff, because when you teach somebody, you're learning it yourself. So that would be one suggestion.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. We are going to take another short break, and when we return, Dacia, there's a question would like for you to answer on how can leaders manage their feelings of isolation and loneliness that often comes with that leadership role. So when we return, we'll talk about that and get your answer for it. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders, inspiring solutions. We are back on Leadership Matters, and we are going to get right into our next question for our guest, Dacia Moore. So, Dacia, how can leaders manage those feelings of isolation and loneliness that often come in leadership roles?
Well, I tell you, I was shocked a little bit to experience that isolation in my career because I had such admiration for executive directors, and I just thought they were, on this pedestal. And then when I became an executive director, I realized that I am the chief cook and bottle washer because I get to do all the things that nobody else can do or will do or have done because the buck stopped with me. And that was an interesting shift just in my understanding of it. And it is lonely. I mean, you are working. I had many metaphors in my head. One of them, I had a pickaxe because I was looking for gold. I was doing the fundraising every day, and I was also a farmer planting seeds, introducing people to the nonprofit and taking, going to coffees and things like that. It can be lonely. My friends didn't understand. I would complain to them about a funder or, a board member, whatever. My friends didn't understand because that was not their world. You can't share that with your staff because there needs to be some personal boundaries so that you have that professional, you have that professionalism in your workplace, that professional presence. You can talk to your peers, but only so far because, some of your peers are your competitors, right? You're competing for the same dollars. So I have found that coaching was helpful to me. I had a fundraising coach, somebody that I knew from a previous job, and I would talk to her about the struggles of coaching. I also was a participant in a executive director people of color BIPOC led organizations, and I was part of that coaching group. And that was very helpful. But of course, you still have boundaries there. But it was good to know that the struggles that I was having it wasn't just because of me, right? What I wasn't doing. It was just the nature of the beast. So this is what I would say. We want healthy habits. We don't want to go to the bar every day, drinking our problems away because, we're struggling. Although it's okay to have a drink every now and then, I think it's important to exercise, get the stress out of your head, and find some trusted relationships, whether that be a coach or a coaching group of executive directors, maybe your local United Way or whatever agency kind of coordinates and is an umbrella agency for the nonprofits in your area. In Kansas City, we had an organization called Nonprofit Connect, and they often had breakfasts for executive directors where you could, make connections with your peers and then find a trusted peer that you could, collaborate with and or commiserate with to a certain extent. But it's also important, and we've talked about balance, and I'll just end here, to be balanced and to have other groups of friends where you get fed in terms of your spirit, your soul, your ego in other ways. Whether and that might be really difficult because the job of an executive director can be all consuming in terms of your energy, mental energy, and physical energy. But if you have one or two outside outlets that really feed your spirit and make you feel like you are getting joy out of it, right? Then that can balance it. So those are some thoughts that I have.
Great. Thank you so much. And I'm glad you mentioned that part about getting some joy because we have been asking all of our guests during this month and the previous month some things for what do they hope for and what brings them joy. So I'm going to put those questions to you. What do you hope for and what brings you joy?
Well, what I am working on now is becoming a great speaker. That is what I am hopeful for. So I'm working towards that. And I am certainly wanting to proclaim this message of advocating for mental health, positive mental health, putting good into the world. That is what I'm hopeful for. What brings me joy is salsa music. I love to put on my Zumba, and when I feel down, I make myself put on my Zumba station on Pandora, and I get my tambourine and I salsa around the living room, and then I just start laughing at myself because I can't really dance, but I don't care because it brings me joy. So I enjoy dancing, and I will dance anywhere, anytime with anyone. So that is what brings me joy is music, good wine and food. That brings me a great deal of joy as well. But the dancing I can do anywhere, especially when I'm feeling, a little lethargic or, just struggling with something. I will turn on my music. And if I start singing and get a good Bad Bunny song, my mood shifts.
Did you say Bad Bunny?
I said Bad Bunny. Yes, I did.
Okay.
The clean version.
Yeah, okay. I love it. I love it. So I see we are getting near the end of our show for today, but Dacia, what final thoughts or tips would you like to share to our listening audience on our topic today? And also, can you give some information on how our listeners can actually contact you or reach out to you or get your book as well, which we didn't get to really talk about?
Yes, my new book, From Stuck to
Yeah.
Unstoppable. Absolutely. Would love for you to, if you're interested in staying in contact with me, go to my website, SWSnippet, SNIPPET, and I will put that in the chat as well and send it to you, Dr. Loretta, so you can put it in the show
Okay.
notes. That is the landing page for my e-newsletter. I do an e-newsletter twice a month that normally has tools It has resources, quotes, and I do a monthly workshop, free workshop, and talk about um, faith-based and psychological strategies to manage overwhelm. I truly, truly do want to get that out there. So the bi-monthly newsletter, swsnippet.com, is the best way to stay in touch, especially if that mental health piece resonates with you, because the newsletter is all about leadership and positive mental health.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, Dr. Sheryl, Dr. Dre, any closing comments from either of you today?
No, this
No,
is
just want
great.
to, yeah, express appreciation for Dacia joining us, and to you for leading our discussion today, and our listening audience for tuning in. Great discussion and such a wonderful topic.
Definitely. And really pushing the thoughts for leaders, those who are really stuck in kind of that task mentality that, in order to be tough, in order to be strong, in order to be powerful, I can't, talk about mental health or wellness. It's not in the venue. We don't get paid for that stuff, but you got to pay attention to that, or nothing else works. And so I think to see, really bringing that home for me has been powerful, and just reminding me, and hopefully those leaders who are listening who may be in that pot as well. So thank you for that as well. Great stuff.
I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, because there are some leaders who think it's, frou-frou, it's soft, it's,
Right.
I'm not paid for that stuff. But you know what? You are doing your people a disservice by not paying attention to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Dacia, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. We're going to have to bring you back.
I'd love to.
Definitely want you to come back. And so for our listening audience, of course, we invite you to send your topics, your questions to Leadership Matters Questions at innovisions.org. That's INNO, V as in Victor, ISIONS.org, innovisions.org. So please join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time, or download our podcast at your convenience on demand. And until the next time, we tell you to keep on keeping on. And thank you for listening to Leadership Matters with the People's Doctors, informing leaders and inspiring solutions. Have a